Good afternoon. Hi, everybody. I'm Rhonda Uretsky from Riverflow Yoga. And Riverflow Yoga, for those of you who don't know, is a hot yoga studio here in Lambertville, New Jersey that has become a hot yoga and meditation studio coming to you from each of the homes of each of the teachers of Riverflow. Today, it's me. So for those of you who don't know me, just a little bit of background. I have been a yoga teacher, a yoga practitioner, a meditator, a mindfulness teacher for about 45 years. I have always found it to be way more beneficial to me as a teacher than to my students, although I certainly hope my students have gotten something from the teachings as well. So there's a lot that we are going through right now. There is something really beautiful about having a mindfulness practice or having a yoga practice to ground you through this time of what can feel like great chaos to some. What I've been hearing from others has felt like a great big sigh of relief. I always am a little bit cautious about talking about this, but I know that some of you have felt it and some of you have heard it from others as well, that for some people, this time to sort of step back from your routines of your regular life, whatever they might be, to have a forced break from your job, from your daily routine, even from your kids being in school, or for your kids, for their routines of being in school. While it might have its upsetting qualities to it, uncertainty, and certainly there's a great deal of fear that can sweep you under, there is also the ability to look at things from a different perspective. The perspective of, you don't have a choice right now. This is what we all need to do to step back and to live life a little bit differently. So again, for some people, this opportunity to step back has been like taking a deep breath. And I think that for many people, if you take the uncertainty and the fear and the worry and the financial aspects of the worry out of the equation, that most people would agree, or would at least have this sense that this is a taking a step back moment, that this is a moment to re-choose, if you're going to re-choose those routines of your life that you want to maintain, and maybe to let go of the ones that you really don't want to maintain. Again, for me personally, I just want to say that this morning has been a real emotional morning for me, like a very big sort of eye-opening moment. I'm always in a state of questioning or playing with this balance of what are the things in my life that I've actually chosen, and what are the things that I have chosen by default? What are the things that I've deliberately brought into my life, and what are the things that have just sort of come into my life because I'm unaware of the choices that I'm making? So for me, this morning, I had one of these very emotional, eye-opening moments where I realized, again, as I tend to realize a lot, that just about everything that is in my life in particular, and maybe you'll notice this yourself, has come to you through your focus on it. It might not be something that you like. It might not be something that you prefer or that you wanted, but because you put your focus on this particular issue, it does tend to loom large in your life. So I know there are a lot of people, when I have this discussion with them, that will say, well, that can't be true because I wouldn't have chosen this relationship. I wouldn't have chosen this pandemic. I wouldn't have chosen to have the flu or to be ill. And again, I just want to reiterate, I'm not saying that you chose these things because you wanted them. I'm saying that having your focus on them has a way of making them large in your life. So if there is something that's presenting itself in your life, it's a really good time and a really good moment right now to sit back and say, has my focus been there a lot? Do I worry a lot about being ill? Do I worry a lot about money, losing my job? Do I worry a lot about my kids, about my vitality, about my ability to be independent, about my ability to take care of myself and to take care of others? And if you really get down into the depths of what you can feel, then you might feel that those things are true, that your focus tends to be there. And again, no judgments. This is just human. We as humans do tend to focus on the things that bother us the most. It's what we talk about the most. It's what the news around us focuses on the most. It's what we do when we get together on Facebook the most, right? We have discussions and debates and arguments about the things that are the most bothersome to us. And there is this little part of us that believes that if we push against things that we don't want, then we'll make them go away. But there is another part of us, a bigger part, a part that's somewhere down in your core that actually knows that pushing against things is actually what helps you to shift your focus to those very things that you don't want, and that makes them just loom larger. So again, this time that we're living through right now is unprecedented in that it is affecting everybody. Sometimes when these big calamitous things happen, they're on the other side of the world, or sometimes they're in your own backyard, but they are localized in general. They are very localized. They happen in very specific places and often to very specific people. But in this case, it's happening to the entire human family. And there is a sense that I get anyway, a sense of connectedness in that. Maybe a little bit of a solace in that we are a human family and that we do share lots of things, not just our physical human makeup, but our desires, our wants, the things that we want in our lives, the things we want our lives to be about. That doesn't have to be the same for everybody. Again, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that we should all even want world peace, that we should all want cleaner water or cleaner air. I think diversity of desires is a very, very good thing. But we all have desires. We all have things in our lives that we want. And maybe in this period of time, we get to see that pushing against them is not necessarily the most successful way to get there, and it's certainly not the most fun way. It's definitely not the easiest way. We have this belief as humans, and I don't think we were born with it. I think we got trained into it, but it really doesn't matter. But we do have this belief that something that you want, you really need to work hard for. You need to sacrifice and give up stuff, and generally just go around feeling badly most of the time in order to get this big reward at the end. And I would love if we could use this period of time, this period of everything changing, to change that one. If we could really trust that when something feels good to you, it's calling you. Right? It feels good because it's some kind of inner genius that you have, some inner wisdom that we all have, that speaks to you through your good feelings and through your bad feelings. When something feels badly, remember that that sign in the forest in The Wizard of Oz that said, "I'd turn back if I were you"? Well, I think that's the sign that goes up when we have bad feelings about something. It's basically telling us, let's turn away from that one. But when something does feel good at your core, it is calling you. It is your inner genius speaking to you. Maybe not in words, maybe not in pictures, but certainly in feelings. And this is what we mean when we talk about things like the gut feelings that we have. And if we could learn to trust and respect and honor and talk about the things that feel good to us and move in that direction, I just wonder if this could be a time for you to experiment with that. Since there aren't very many things you have to do, and again, this will vary from person to person. Some of us are still working remotely. Some of us are still engaged in meetings and running companies. Some of us are managing children. Some of us are not. Some of us have days that have no routine to them. But somewhere in the space of your day, however busy or empty it might seem of a routine schedule, if you could take a moment, if you could take some time in that day to learn to listen to that call from inside of you that's calling you towards what feels good, I think that is a worthwhile practice. And I think that everybody in some capacity has that opportunity right now in this time frame when everything is just different. So this practice, which I call Blissful Warrior, and I've named it after a book that I wrote called The Blissful Warrior a few years ago. And that book was a discussion of the many practices that I've used throughout my 45 years to hear this inner guidance, to hear this inner genius, this inner wisdom, to be able to listen to it and trust it. So if we use this time, this half an hour to 45 minutes in the middle of every day that we're going to be together, to get quiet enough from the usual chatter, and the usual chatter are those things that tell you what you should be doing, how terrible you are for procrastinating the things that you should be doing, how you should be in a different place in your life right now, you could have planned better, you could have been more successful. It compares you to other people. You know, that voice. That's the one that we want to quiet, at least for a little while. Let's not have too much of, I don't want to say expectation, but sometimes we have this harsh judgment on ourselves that, oh, now I understand this. I should just be able to do it. Let me quiet that voice that's been berating me for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. No, that isn't going to happen in an instant. But what can happen in an instant is that you can learn to gentle it and be gentle towards it and have a little bit of patience and acceptance that maybe that voice, if I can just sort of put it to the side for a moment, not pretend that I will banish it forever. That's just another one of those things that I'm telling myself I should do and might not be possible in this moment. But if I could just, in a little bit of time every day, put it to the side so that the inner genius part of me, that inner wisdom part, that part that knows what feels good, knows what I prefer, that knows that I have a right to my preferences, to the things that feel good to me, without having to explain them to anyone, without having to judge them or evaluate them, without feeling guilty about them. But I come back to definitely without having to explain them to anybody. Your preferences are your preferences. Those things that feel good to you are the things that feel good to you because that is the core inner genius of you, calling you forward, telling you come this way. You know, it's kind of whispering in your ear with this good feeling that you have, saying this way, this way. You want to sit on the couch and that feels good to you, come this way. If you want to have another cup of coffee or eat a piece of chocolate and that feels good to you, then come this way. Trust it. Learn to trust that the wisdom that you hear from your own good feelings is more valuable than any advice that you could get from anybody else outside of you. Simply because people outside of you don't know what it feels like to be you. And it's very valuable to be you and to feel those good feeling thoughts that are describing to you the path of what my friend likes to call least resistance. That easy path that's really calling you forward into the life that you want. So, that's my preamble about what Blissful Warrior is all about. You are about to be a warrior about your own bliss. You're going to stand up for your right to feel good. Not to anybody else, but to yourself. Your only battle is ever with yourself, with your own judgmental mind, telling you that things should be different in some way. There really isn't anybody outside of you who's focused on you long enough to really, really, I don't want to use the word care, but okay, I'm going to use it, to care that much about what it is that you're doing. This is for you to care about. There's a beautiful little Buddhist cartoon that says, there's two ways to live your life. There's the, nobody cares, nobody really cares about me. And then there's the, nobody really cares, right? If nobody really cares, then you are free to follow that inner guidance and do what feels good to you. Now you have a choice. Which way do you want to live your life? So we're going to start by just sort of tiptoeing into what it feels like to hear that inner guidance. Where do you find this ability to return to that connection? And remember, I'm not saying you have to create the connection. It's already there. You're just wanting to practice hearing it and feeling it. So if this place of inner connection is all about feeling good and feeling soothed and feeling sort of taken care of, then you have to give yourself things that will feel good to you so that you can be in the same place of connection with your inner guidance that already feels good. Does that make sense? It's like you're aligning who you are on the outside with who you are on the inside. Who you are on the inside feels good all the time. So therefore, who you are on the outside needs to find ways to feel good in order to be on the same wavelength with your inner genius. So I'm feeling pretty good sitting on the floor. I'd like you to find a comfortable position for you to have a seat right now. Could be on the floor. I also like to say could be in a chair. You know, you don't have to be a great yogi. You're not proving anything to me. And you certainly don't have to prove anything to anybody else. You are here alone right now. So if sitting in a chair feels good to you, if that's what you feel called to do, to feel comfortable, go ahead. Lying down might feel good to you. Go ahead. Give yourself permission to be called in the direction that feels good and to go with it without having to second guess it, judge it, think why you should be doing something different or better. Just trust that feeling good is your path. Feeling good isn't the ultimate goal, it's the path, it's the whole story. Feeling good. So let's take some deep breaths. Again, I find it really comfortable from years and years and years of sitting on the floor to sit here in cross-legged position. And if you would like to have a way to sit on the floor that's comfortable, get a cushion, put it under your butt, let your hips come a little bit forward. You'll find a nice comfortable support for your open hips. I'm going to place my hands on the ends of my knees with my palms facing up, but yours can be down in your lap. If you're lying down, maybe try palms on your knees, or maybe you want arms at your sides if you're lying down. Let yourself go towards the call of what feels good to you, right? Even in these small things, what is a comfortable position for you? I don't know the answer for you, but you do. So go with what feels good for you right now. We are in the practice of teaching ourselves, re-teaching ourselves how to feel good. All right, now let's take some deep breaths. So deep breathing here will be in through your nose, hear it in the back of your throat, and then out through your nose and hear it in the back of your throat. So let's try 3, and I'll count it down for you. And let's look at this as a game. Right away, for some people, as I start talking about breathing and counting, it becomes a challenge, or it becomes something that you're having to follow along with or play by the rules. Now this is going to be a game. So you're in your comfortable seated position. Here's a couple of tips I'd like to give you about seated positioning that feels good to me, and you try them if you would like. I like to pull my collarbones wide apart. So in this sitting straight position, rather than thrusting my chest or, bring my shoulders back, which feels like a strain to me. If you can just have this imaginary traction machine that grabs you at the collarbones and begins to pull them nice and wide, for me, I feel an immediate opening in my chest and a complete relaxation of my arms. I like to let my chin drop a little bit because I am aware that I, and many of the people that I have taught yoga over the past 45 years tend to have a chin thrust. It might be a big one or it might be a little one, but in any case, anytime your head is not settled on your neck, there's some strain that tends to feel like resistance. So if you drop your chin just a little and you imagine maybe putting your head back on top of your neck by bringing your head backwards a little bit, you might find some relief in that. And notice I'm not giving you any hard and fast rules about this is what you have to do, this is the wrong and right way to meditate. I'm giving you some suggestions based on things that have felt good to me and others. You get to try them out, and you get to know whether they're appropriate for your good feeling moment. All right, so now let's try the deep breath. So here's the game. You're going to inhale through your nose, but you're pretending it's coming in through a hole in the back of your throat. So you don't hear it as a sniffing in your nose. You sense it as this big, strong Darth Vader noise coming through the back of your throat. And the same will be true for the exhale. So it's going to sound something like this. I actually have no clue whether you can hear that or not, but I'm going to do it again. So inhale through your nose and hear it in the back of your throat. Let me just get rid of this note that's coming up and blocking my screen. And you're still inhaling, you're hearing it come in the back of your throat. And then as you exhale, again, hearing it in the back of your throat, comes out your nose, right? But you're hearing it in the back of your throat. So you sense like this hole in the back of your throat making this big, strong ha sound. And now I'm going to count it for you. So inhale, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now hold your breath right here at the top. Pull your collarbones wide and drop your chin a little and bring your head back. Maybe tuck your tailbone under a little bit so it's somewhat up towards your belly. And now exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And inhale. And see if you can coordinate how it feels to coordinate the pulling of your collarbones wide and the dropping of your chin as you inhale. And now as you exhale, again, see if you can coordinate how it feels to coordinate the dropping of your tailbone and maybe the tucking of your tailbone a little bit up towards your belly. And inhale. I'm going to really encourage you that if while you're sitting here and breathing, your thoughts are spinning around, it's okay. It's fine. It's okay. My friend Mary likes to say, okay, got it. That's what's happening. There's no reason for you to put any judgments on that. There's no reason for you to think you should be doing better. And there's not even any real reason to pull yourself back from those thoughts. If you have this gentle acceptance, okay, got it. That's what's happening in this moment. You'll naturally come back to the good feeling person that you actually are. And in your feeling good is all your wisdom. So that might be a different thought than what you've been told. You might have been taught that in your educating yourself, in your studying and working hard, in your constantly applying yourself and not procrastinating, in your pushing yourself to do certain things and forcing yourself to have a to-do list and complete it, that's where all your rewards are, and that's where all your good feelings will come from. And I would like to suggest that the opposite is true. That feeling good is your natural state. And the only way to get there is to feel good now. Not to do all of this hard, effortful work in the service of feeling good. It doesn't align. Doing things that feel off in some way, feel bad, will never be able to take you to a place of feeling good. It vibrationally does not align. Feeling bad cannot produce feeling good. Just like if you plant lemon seeds, you will not get a rose bush. You will get what you plant. So here in this time together, in this blissful warrior practice, we're planting the seeds of feeling good. Take a deep breath. Inhale. And exhale. Hear it through the back of your throat. And inhale. And exhale, and hear it through the back of your throat. Now you are going to, if you follow Facebook or if you follow social media at all, you're going to hear a lot of people berating themselves for eating too much during this time of being inside, for sleeping too much, for sitting on the couch, watching too much TV, not exercising. I'm not here to tell you the right and wrong things to do. I'm here to help you to align with feeling good. And berating yourself never feels good. You know, everybody gives procrastination, they call it procrastination, a really bad rap. So I'd like to introduce a new thought about that. If you are aligned with your inner genius, with your inner wisdom, then maybe there is a better time for taking action than other times. Maybe things are simply more aligned at certain times for you to get the result you want from the action you're about to take than at other times. And maybe there is a part of you, this inner genius or this inner wisdom, that is aligned enough to know when the right time is for you to be taking action. And maybe the feeling of procrastination, the feeling of not wanting to take action in this moment, is just another one of those guidances from your inner genius telling you, not yet, not yet. Maybe it will pay to wait. I don't know if this has happened to you in your life, but it has certainly happened to me in my life many, many times. I had an incident just last week where people were clamoring for me to answer a particular issue. I was getting emails, I was getting phone calls. Even while I was doing one of my soulful stretching yoga classes, I was seeing email notices come across the screen, sort of, pulling me in a way that didn't feel good for me to stop the yoga and answer these emails. And I chose not to. I chose to stay in my good feeling place, which when I actually stopped to take a breath felt better to me. Oh, there was this sort of desperate feeling of, I really need to answer this email. And I'm sure you've had this situation where you feel like you must answer this thing, otherwise it will get out of control. But because I was right here and breathing deeply, I was able to discern the difference between what actually felt good and what simply felt like desperation. And staying in my good feeling place, staying here with you and breathing and continuing to do some stretching. By the time I finished this soulful stretch class, and by the time I actually did feel inspired to check those emails, I found out that the situation actually resolved itself. It didn't need me to intervene at all. So I was sort of forced procrastination because in that moment, although I suppose I could have stopped the yoga and answered this issue, but I did make a choice to stay here and stay in what felt better. That procrastination served me very well. And I'm going to suggest to you that if you will be kind to yourself when you're feeling like you don't want to do something, and not label it as procrastination, but perhaps give it a different name. Inner guidance, working out perfect timing for me, that more times than not you will find that waiting served you better. So let's sit here and wait for a moment. Wait to feel good before you take any action in your day. Take a deep breath. This always works. If you find that in any part of your day you're agitated, you're out of your core, you're out of your center of being, you can always take a deep breath. Because you're always breathing anyway. You can be deliberate about your breathing and use it to bring yourself back to this place of inner guidance, this inner wisdom. So let's take one now. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. And exhale. I realize that in some ways I'm asking you to do something that's perhaps bigger than anything going on out there. Bigger than social distancing, bigger than washing your hands a lot, bigger than working out your finances in this time, bigger than making all the applications for loans and unemployment, and bigger than taking care of your children at home. I'm asking you to do something that in some ways is more natural, but in some ways maybe the biggest thing that you can be doing in this time. And that is to feel good. To trust that feeling good is a message from your inner wisdom to go this way, to come in this direction. It's like calling you forward very gently. Come this way. It feels good. It feels good for a reason, because it's encouraging you. It's giving you a particular message that this is the way. This is the way for you to live that life of happiness that you think, that we've been trained to think, won't be earned until you have put in some effort. So I'm suggesting that maybe the biggest thing you can do for yourself during this time of being a little quieter is to change that idea that you need to prove yourself, judge yourself, somehow evaluate yourself to prove that you deserve to be happy, to earn your happiness. Maybe it's there already. It's just a question of you allowing yourself to feel good. Take a deep breath. Inhale. And exhale. So for me, usually after these Blissful Warrior breathing sessions, I'm inspired to do some movement. If you'd like to join me, great. Do it because you're inspired to, not because you feel like you need some exercise. There's a difference. The result might be the same. The result might be that you're going to move around right now and you're going to join me in these stretches. But the inspiration for joining me in these stretches, I'm going to invite you to let that inspiration come from what feels good to you right now. Does it feel good for you to watch me do the stretches? Does it feel good for you to sit here and breathe? Does it feel good for you to join in? There is no wrong answer. There's just you and what feels good to you in this moment. And notice that I'm saying in this moment because the moments will change, your feelings will change, and your ability to go towards what feels good in every moment is your choice. So I'm going to do a beautiful spinal twist stretch. So if you're joining me in this spinal twist, I'm going to give you some guidance in terms of instructions. If you're just watching, if that feels good, great. You're not doing anything wrong. If you're just listening, great. You're doing everything right. So I'm going to bend my left knee so that the left knee points towards you, towards the camera. If that tends to bother your knee or hip, you can also keep your legs stretched straight out. Right leg up and over, so the right heel is against my left knee corner. Give it to you on the angle for those who are watching or guiding, coming along with it, or just sort of enjoying watching me do it, right? There's good feelings in watching somebody else do stretches, and there's benefits to it. I'll talk about that for you at another time. Maybe I'll talk about it now. Your brain doesn't actually know the difference between what you're seeing, what you're imagining, and what you're physically doing. It all registers the same way in your brain. So if you're watching somebody else doing a stretch and you're appreciating it and enjoying it, you're getting benefit from it. Really nice to know that you benefit physiologically, psychologically, in every possible way from feeling good just watching somebody else do something. All right, hang on, I'm just gonna close that down. Okay, so left arm up by your ear, bend at the elbow, coming down around the outside of your knee. I'm gonna reach my hand down and touch my bent knee. If you're sitting on a yoga mat and you can't quite slip your hand under the knee without making your knee come up off the mat, sometimes it'll feel better to grab the edge of your towel or mat. Now, when I'm doing poses like this, I like to imagine that my spine is a slinky and that I'm really being able to twist this slinky in ways that's very natural for it to already go. So, inhale. Pull your collarbones wide apart. Let your chin drop a little bit again. Lean into that one hip, making sure both hips are on the ground. And then exhale with my chin dropped. I'm simply going to look over my right shoulder, but I'm going to play this little game of not letting myself see my right shoulder. So as I get closer and closer to seeing it, I'm going to continue to pull that shoulder more and more behind me. Oh, I can feel this slinky twist in my spine. Sometimes one hip comes up off the mat. You might want to lean that hip back down again. Really ground both hips. Again, inhale, collarbones wide, chin dropped a little, and exhale, twist. Looking for your right shoulder twist. And then change to the other side. So now I'm going to bend my right knee. Remember, if this is uncomfortable, you can keep your right leg straight out. We're going for what feels good. Bend your left knee, or I'm going to bend my right knee. Left leg up and over. So my left heel is now against my right knee corner. I'm also going to take my heel and pull it out from under my left hip and make sure both of my hips are square to the ground. Let's see if I can give you a longer view here. I also really like it when my knee and ankle are in a straight line. So pushing a little bit on that knee and maybe pushing the heel towards the knee a little bit more, getting that really nice straight feeling. Now the left arm comes behind me and the right arm up by my ear, bending at the elbow, down around the outside of the knee to push the knee out of the way. And again, I'm going to slip my hand under my bent knee, but you can reach down and grab the top edge of your towel, your mat, whatever you're sitting on. And inhale, lift your chest, pull your collarbones wide, keep that arm behind you like a kickstand, really straight. And as you exhale, suck your stomach in, dropping your chin and twist, looking over your left shoulder, twist, and not being able to see the left shoulder, twist, 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 and change, coming back. Taking a moment to sit in a comfortable position again. This time I'm going to bring the soles of my feet together. This is butterfly pose in yoga. If you have open hips already, this will feel great. If you don't worry about it. Just feel what feels good right now. If this feels good, go ahead and do it. Otherwise, another comfortable seated position. Take a breath. Inhale. Exhale. Always coming back to this deep breath as a way of reconnecting with your place of feeling like yourself. Now, feeling good is a synonym for feeling like yourself. You are at your core this good feeling person. No matter if you think of yourself as angry, frustrated, depressed, upset, I'd like to invite you to consider that those are just moments. Those are moments of emotional flare-ups, usually as a result of some condition that you're facing in the moment. But at the core of you is this good feeling person, and you know it because every time you take a deep breath, that's what you return to feeling. Inhale. And exhale. And isn't this the person that you want to go out and live your life as? Isn't this the person you want to be interacting with other people as? Yourself. Let's try a little cat-cow, or watch a little cat-cow. I'm going to do this really nice spinal stretch. So again, I'm going to give you the instructions, and you are going to follow your own guidance about whether you'd like to follow along, listen along, watch the stretch, whatever feels good to you right now. No judgments, no evaluations, no needing to explain this to anybody. So, I'm going to be on all fours. My hands are flat to the ground. My wrists are directly under my shoulders, which curiously is always a little further back than you think, to have your wrists under your shoulders. Hands are separated about 6 inches, and knees are too. About hip width apart, knees are directly lined up behind my wrists. Looking at the wall in front of me, lock your elbows and rotate them in. So interesting to feel what happens when you do that, right? When your elbows are sort of splayed out, there's a bit of pressure in your shoulders and your palms, but the moment you lock your arms and rotate your elbows inward, it's like all of the strength of your biceps becomes engaged and you feel really strong here. Inhale, chin up, face front. Bring your neck up. Your breastbone is now parallel to the wall in front of you. Check on your locked elbows rotated in. Drop your belly towards the ground and stretch your tailbone to the ceiling. And really stretching the tailbone to the ceiling like you want it to touch. And then exhale. Drop your chin. See if you can nestle your chin between your collarbones, that little hollow space. Round your middle back. Suck your stomach in. Just stay here for a moment, all curled in. And inhale, lock your elbows, rotate them in, bring your head up, face front, chin up, neck up, breastbone parallel to the front wall. Drop your belly and stretch your tailbone up to the ceiling. Lock your elbows as you do. Sometimes stretching the tailbone up to the ceiling makes you sort of bend your elbows. Just doesn't feel as good. And as you exhale, drop your head, nestle your chin, sort of wedge it right in there between the collarbones, round your middle back, suck your stomach in, and hold in here. And inhale, chin up, face up, neck up, breastbone parallel to the front wall, drop your belly, stretch your tailbone, stretch, locking your elbows, rotate them in, and exhale. Drop your chin, nestle it between the collarbones, wedge it in there, round your middle back, suck your stomach in. And inhale, coming back to that neutral tabletop position. And then child's pose, really nice transition pose here. Sitting back, hips to heels, forehead to the mat, arms at your sides, palms facing up. Let your elbow tips bend and your shoulders slump forward, and take a deep breath. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Place all 10 fingertips right there on the ground beside your knees, and as lightly as you can press yourself up into a seated position again. Takes very little pressure to get yourself back up into that seated position. And then find a good seated position. Notice mine is different now. Just checking in on which seated position feels best. Hips to heels, palms in my lap. Palms facing up, elbow tips pulling towards my hips, taking a deep breath. Inhale. Collarbones wide, tailbone dropped on the exhale, chin down a little. Now I'm going to come into a standing position. I'm going to show you a really feel-good way to do this. Transition from the floor to standing. Again, your choice. You want to follow along. You want to close your eyes and listen to these instructions. You want to watch me do this thing. Check in, always asking yourself, what feels good to me in this moment? So, if you're following along, here's the instructions. Lean forward a little bit. Place your fingertips on the ground and lock your arms and drop your head. So your chin, again, is wedged in between those collarbones. Coming forward onto your knees and roll back onto your feet, starting from your toes, the balls of your feet, your heels, walking your fingertips back towards your toes and let your body hang. So imagine you're trying to see your own throat. And then slowly bringing yourself back up, picturing that slinky in your spine, coming up one coil at a time, letting your arms hang. Keeping it really slow, looking for the feel-good moment in every single move you're making here. And then eventually you'll be standing up. Put your head right on top at the very end. And you're back here. Rotate your palms towards the front wall. A little cushion out of the way. And just stand here with your collarbones wide and your chin dropped and take a breath. Inhale. And exhale. Here's another really great trick that I love doing. You learn to lock your thigh muscles and lift them up when you're standing. So you're no longer depending on your tiny little delicate, quite amazing, kneecaps to hold your body weight. It's your thigh muscles that take all your body weight as you lock your thighs and lift them up and press the inner edges of your ankle bones together so that you can feel the strength that you have inherent in your body right here in these quads. Palms facing forward, chin dropped a little. Let's take a deep breath and go back to feeling good. If you deviated at all, inhale. And exhale. And now a little playing with that slinky, a little side to side, back and front stretching. Inhale, arms overhead, hands touch in prayer, and then pointer fingers up, thumbs crossed. Press your palms together, lock your thighs, lean it back into your heels, push your hips and thighs forward, and very gently rocking from side to side. So as you're rocking, you're pulling with your pointer fingers to one side and pushing your hips to the opposite. And back to center as you inhale. Pulling to the other side and letting your hips ease out. Back to center, inhale. Pulling to one side, pushing your hip or easing your hip back to center. Inhale. And now pulling to one side, it'll be the right here for me, and holding here. And really feeling the pull from your pointer fingers, pressing your palms, imagining your biceps squeezing your head, Your chin is a little up. You're leaning into your heels. Your hips and thighs are forward with your thighs locked and lifted. And as you exhale your breath, you just let that left hip ease a little bit. Right? It's all about feeling good. Easing the hip to the left. And then come back. Inhale, back to center. Pull up at center. Feels so good to pull up. Holding your breath right here. Holding your breath as you go right into the other side. Here it's the left. I'm pulling for the top back left corner of my room, so it's a little bit behind me. See if you can make that happen for you too. And as you exhale your breath, just let your hip ease to the right. You know that feeling you have when you stand with your hand on your hip and you just pop your hip out? Just feel that in your right hip now as you let it ease out. And back to center. Inhale and stretch. And when you're at center, press your palms and use your pointer fingers to touch the ceiling. And as you exhale, let your head squeeze between your arms to come back. Look at your pointer fingers. And as you inhale, pull up again. And as you exhale, think about moving your arms beside your ears. So just being curious to see what happens to your torso when your arms are wanting to be beside your ears. Place the weight in your heels. Let your hips and thighs push forward. Keep your thighs locked and lifted. And as you inhale, lift your breastbone to the ceiling. Lock your arms more. And as you exhale, move your arms back a little more. Playing that game of, oh, can I get my arms beside my ears? And change. Inhale, stretch up to the ceiling. Get your head back between your arms. I'm just going to turn a little bit on this side. And as you exhale, now you're going to keep your head between your arms as you pull your pointer fingers towards the wall in front of you. Stomach sucked in. You're pulling. Oh, that pulling is so satisfying. It really does feel good, at least to me. And then just come all the way down. And place your palms on the ground. Let yourself look for your throat and pedal your heels. Getting this nice ease of your hamstrings. Looking for your throat. Now bend your knees a little. Get your chest to your thighs. Look for your throat. Hang your head and tuck your hands under your heels from behind, with all 10 fingers pointing forward towards your toes. If you can't access that, if you're doing this along with me, you might place your palms on your calves with your fingers facing down. I'm going to go for under the heels. And as you inhale, see if you can play this game of making your elbow tips want to touch behind your calf muscles as you look for your throat. And as you exhale, lift your tailbone to the ceiling and see if you can tuck your chin hard enough into that hollow between the collarbones to press your face to your shins. And then coming up again, place your arms beside your ears, head between your arms, pulling from your pointers, taking your breath in, taking it nice and slow, feeling that slinky in your spine stack. One coil on top of the other, back to the ceiling and stretch. Reach for the ceiling and drop your arms down. Just always feel like taking such a big sigh after that. Feels wonderful. Pull your collarbones wide. Drop your chin down. Thigh muscles tight and lifted. Inhale. And as you exhale, let your chin drop. Turn your palms to the wall. Start to lean forward a little bit from your hips, from your waist. See if you can keep your thighs locked as you just let your arms become really heavy. Arms are dangling now. Your shoulders feel like they're coming up by your ears, but not because you're shrugging them, just because you're not resisting. You're allowing them to go wherever they're going to go. You're looking for your throat. And eventually your fingertips will touch the ground. Then it's time to bend your knees. Continue to look for your throat. Leaning forward into your fingertips, put your knees on the ground. Uncurl your toes and find your comfortable seated position again. And inhale. And exhale. Now, if today you were inspired to come along and join me in these stretches, great. If you weren't, great. If you watched and you enjoyed it, great. If you listened while you were working and you just sort of heard it and you enjoyed it, great. The purpose of our time together here today and every day that we do this Blissful Warrior practice is to teach you to reconnect with asking yourself what feels good to you and then following what feels good to you. Knowing that, again, you are, and I know there are so many messages that you've gotten about self-indulgence being bad, putting yourself first not being a good thing, being selfish. I really would love to use this Blissful Warrior time together. While everything else out there in the world is going upside down, let's turn this idea upside down. That self-soothing is a way of reconnecting to your inner guidance, your inner wisdom, your inner